Everyone, this is Samit on Talksonground and welcome to Talksonground. So, in the last few weeks, we've been, especially in India, we've been following the elections very uh, with a lot of enthusiasm, and our focus has completely been on the elections. But on the back, in the background, there's been something happening which I think a lot of people don't know, or some people do know in the especially in the trade, so to say. So basically, there's been a big change coming in the financial markets, the economic system, which is the perhaps the collapse of the US dollar. So, what is the US dollar going to collapse? Is the US dollar is a new currency coming up? So all of these things are interlinked with trade, with geopolitics, and also with what's happening in the economic front. So before we get into what's happening today, I just wanted to first give you a taste of what the system has been in the past. So let's first understand what is the history. So what is the history of this dollar exchange rate being the primary currency? So let's go back into the end of Second World War, 1944. As you know, the United States of America was on the victorious side. And because it was on the victorious side, it was able to dictate terms in terms of, what should be the system, which country gets freedom, and so on and so forth. So what happened is because of the war, there was wide scale destruction of property and the economy of an infrastructure of many countries, especially in Europe and Japan and parts of Asia. So, what happened at that time was because there was no existing player which was very strong, the United States took the lead. And in July 1944, uh, a system was set up which was called the Bretton-Woods system. So, what the Americans, being the preeminent power at that time, was looking for was to enable itself to sell its goods to others and to import goods that they needed to dominate the currency market with their own currency, which was the US dollar, and to uh, also have capital flows going in and out. So on these with these pillars, which were the capital liberalization, foreign exchange liberalization, and trade liberalization. These were the three pillars on which they framed this system. So, what this system was that the US dollar was pegged to the gold at a fixed rate of 35 US dollars for every ounce of gold. And they set up two institutions, one the IMF, you must have heard of that, and the second called the World Bank. Now, in with these two systems, what they did was, knowing that every country is trying to rebuild after the war, they would provide short-term loans using the IMF and development loans, long-term, medium-term loans using the World Bank. The IMF loans would obviously be asked for by countries in crisis, and countries which were looking for development and didn't have the capital will go to World Bank. And using this, they controlled, the pillars of trade, the pillars of economy, and the pillars of capital. So this is what they kept doing. And over a period of time, almost every country by 1958 started exchanging their currency in dollar, and this became the prevalent system. This system continued till the early 1970s. But what happened is that the Vietnam War and the concurrent crisis going on in Europe created a problem for the dollar. Now, what was the problem? The problem was US had run huge debts. So, because they needed a lot of money and capital for running their war machine in Vietnam. And at the same time, countries in Europe were finding it difficult to come up with the dollars because their economy was not doing that well. And they were not allowed to uh, like reduce or increase their foreign exchange rates by more than 1%, according to the Bretton-Woods Agreement. So in 1971, uh, the Americans decided that, they could not keep taking in and giving out this gold for exchange of dollar and vice versa. And they finished off the whole Bretton Woods system by the end of 1971. And they devalued the dollar by about 11%, 10.7, whatever. Now, to replace the system, they had to come up with something else. Now, that something else was called the petrodollar. Now, let's understand what the petrodollar was. So, the petrodollar uh, was something that was formalized in 1974 in a meeting between the Saudi prince and the Americans represented by Henry Kissinger. Now, what this agreement did was it forced Saudi Arabia to sell all its oil, and Saudis were the biggest producers and sellers of oil at that time. And they had to sell all their oil in dollars. And in return for this, they would be receiving military support, military protection for their kingdom. And also, they would be able to get investments from the Americans. In exchange, they have to sell everything in dollars and put those dollars into the Federal Reserve, buying the treasury bonds. So, this is what the system was. Now, this agreement uh, also reinforced the same system which was prevalent before 1971, wherein US dollar was the preeminent currency and US dollar's dominance was all over, and that is how US dominated the geopolitical world, the economic world, and the trade world. So this created a consistent supply of dollars for the Americans. So they did not have to save anything. They could consume whatever they wanted. That's why a lot of Americans have a lot of debt and they don't save that much because the interest rates are very low. And when you have low interest rates, you don't worry about getting debt because, for instance, if I took 1,000 rupees or let's say 1 lakh rupees and I have to pay back 1 lakh 1,000, I won't worry about the interest rate because it's so low. And the inflation was also low because they were basically exporting the inflation to the world. And this reinforced the preeminence of the US financial system on the world, the US economic system on the world, and the US trade system on the world. And this anchored the financial markets for many decades, from 1971 to today. However, since the 2022 Russia-Ukraine war, and also just before that, the COVID pandemic, which wrecked the world, especially the trade that was happening and the trade balances and the foreign exchange reserve situation for everyone. So, since let's say the last 4 years have changed the whole situation dramatically. So, what is happening today is that Saudi Arabia is no longer sitting on the kind of oil reserves they were sitting on. So, they realize that they have to diversify into other areas of economy. They can't just rely on getting dollars in exchange for oil. So they are trying to diversify into technology, into tourism, into renewables, and so on. And they want to build their own financial markets, own financial systems, and get investments into their country, to build a modern economy. Now, because of this, and because of the war and the COVID situation I mentioned, the situation for America is not very good. The US interest rates are surging. I think they're around 5.3% right now, which is the highest in many, many, many decades. and which means the capital cost has gone up. Taking debt is no longer that easy. So bankruptcies are rising. The US inflation rate has also risen to above 3.5% at times. And that also means that the budgets of the common Americans is hurting. So all of this is causing a perfect storm in the foreign exchange transactions market. In other words, people are questioning whether they should hold on to the American dollar or they should diversify into yuan or other currencies. And surely the Chinese economic or trade dominance is there, is like one of the um, things which is causing this shift. And then don't forget there is a huge surge in the China-Russia trade, which is happening mostly in yuan. So this is also causing a major shift in the global financial markets, the global trade, and this is going to really impact how the dollar performs over time. I must mention the last 3, 4 years, the dollar has actually strengthened in terms of the dollar index. That's because when there's uncertainty, a lot of people find a safe haven in the dollar, which is not yet uh, replaced by any other currency. However, there is a event that has happened, and that event or not happened. What is that event? The event is that the agreement which is due to be signed between Saudi Arabia and US to continue the petrodollar has not yet happened. It might still happen. We don't know whether it'll happen or not, but the signs are not good for America. And if this happens, if this agreement is not signed, and there's a BRICS meeting coming up, I think, in 2 months, and there are rumors that uh, there will be a new currency on the table. Or if not a new currency, people will start trading in their own currencies to buy the oil. So that itself will replace the dollar as the preeminent currency for trading, and therefore its value will drop. So therefore, what's coming up is going to be very important. And I think this should be power dynamics in Middle East, and this could reduce the US influence in Middle East. This could also change the way people look at partnerships in Middle East. So, with the US removed, they will try and find a new uh, pole for getting into alliances. So there is going to be a growing role of China and yuan, uh, and there's going to be role of other countries as well. So this is a quick deep dive into what is happening in terms of the US dollar. I will come back to you with more on this. Thank you very much for watching, and it was a pleasure. Thank you.